welcome to Glenys Garnett Creative Images. This is a making of video, and I've had an awful lot of really good response to this image on social media, and I've had a few people asking how I made it, and so I thought I'd do a video for you. It's one of those images that took a little while to get right, but I had an idea in my head about what I wanted. I wanted this tree that stood out, that had almost like a golden glow to it. So I'm going to show you how I built it up. So I'm going to take you down to the bottom here, and we're just going to switch all the layers off except this layer. Let's just switch that off as well. So I started off with a blank layer, basically. I think this is a 15 by 15 300 dpi image. And first thing I did was I brought in one of my own texture layers. Now this is a texture that I created in the course of creating another image, and I quite liked it. I've added some of my own brushes here and a nice textured brush background on it. And so I thought, when I saw it, I thought, oh, that'd make a good texture for the future. And if you're making images and you're creating and you come across some happy accidents and you like something, save it and keep it as a texture, because it's always worth seeing whether you can use them in future images. So that's this layer, and then all I did with this one was I made a copy of this layer, just a Ctrl-J, made a copy of the layer and flipped it. What I mean by flipping it is, if you go to edit and transform, there's an option for flipping horizontal or vertical, whatever, or rotating. So I just flipped it horizontally and applied it as a soft light. So I didn't want it to be a full layer like that. I wanted it to be an overlay light. So and it has a little bit of fine softness over here, and it's also applied some darkness to the sky at the top. So the next thing I did was apply one of my own textures, and if we just switch those off, you'll see that that texture is just a soft, almost bluey, cloudy texture, and I've applied that as a soft, as an overlay, and it's just starting to give me some bluey colour into that image now. The next layer is the subject matter, is the tree. Now I want to show you how I created this. Let's pop it on first, and you can see there it looks almost like a pencil drawing. But what I want to do first is show you how I did this. It took me ages to actually find a tree that I wanted. This is the image here. Let's just take that back and show you how we did this. So the image I've used for this is this image of a tree, which is a local tree just around the corner from me, and it's taken on a bit of a snowy December morning. And in order to get the look that we've got here, which is almost like a pencil drawing look, what I tend to do is use the photocopy filter in the filters. Now, if we go to filter, remember, if the filter gallery is greyed out, it's often because your image is 16-bit and it's got to be an 8-bit image to use the filter gallery. So we go into the filter gallery, and don't worry if it looks colour at this stage, it doesn't matter, we'll just convert it to black and white. But you can see here, we've got the outline, it's like a negative image. But at this point, we're just going to adjust the detail and the darkness and see what we get. And again, this is a judgment call. Just adjust it to what you think, have a play about. But I settled on 6 and 11 for mine. So that's just, if we adjust the darkness up, you'll see that I think that takes that lighter across the board. And sometimes you don't want too much detail in these. So we'll take it back to 11, which was fine for me, and we'll click OK. And that will apply. Now at this stage, we're going to convert it first to black and white. So it's adjustments, black and white. We can just take it as it is, that. Don't have to do any adjustments there. And then we're going to go image, adjustments, and invert, and we should get a nice sort of almost pencil drawing. So that's the image I ended up with. And if we look on here, you'll see that's more or less it. And let's pop those back. And what I've done is, when I've brought that into the image, I've chosen a blend layer. If we look at the different blend modes here, and for this sort of image, I'd use a darken blend mode. And if we move down, you'll see there's the darken, there's multiply. And again, this is a judgment call. Decide what you want to do. I chose the darker colour, and I've also reduced the opacity down a little bit because I don't want that bottom area here to stand out too much. It will get obliterated a little bit anyway. So we're at 75%, I think, on that. Now, the next layer is another one of my textures. And if I show you what that texture is, it looks like it's just a cloudy, almost like a cloudy layer, one I've made myself. And this is where the sort of, I suppose, the colouring starts to come in now, and that the tree standing out and getting those lovely golden colour. Now I've applied that layer as a difference layer, and you'll see how that is affecting. If we go down, you'll see the difference layer really does literally make a difference to the way the image looks, and it looks quite bold and strange. Now I've started now to apply a colour balance layer, and this colour balance layer is clipped to the layer below. So remember that if we clip to the layer below, it's only going to affect this layer here, which is the cloudy texture layer. It's not going to affect the whole of the image. And if we go into that adjustment, you'll see I've adjusted the midtones, the shadows and the highlights, just to get the colours that I want for that. So I've got the blue in the sky and the blue in the foreground here. And then I'm going to start playing with the hue and saturation. And you see here, I've adjusted the hue and saturation. I brought the saturation down a little bit. I don't think I've just adjusted those. That's that. And then I've applied a curves adjustment to just lift it and bring the lightness up a little bit. Now at this point, I'm going to do what's called a merge up layer. So that's Control Shift Alt E, and that will make a copy of all the layers below. Now because I've got a difference layer and a darker layer, sometimes the effect of merging can be different to what you think you're going to get. It sounds a bit strange that, because the way blending works in Photoshop, you don't always get what you see on here, and it's one of these, sometimes an happy accident. You've got to play about with it and see what you're going to get. But let's have a look at the effect of merging those layers. If we do the Control Shift Alt E, you'll see that that's got the effect of lightening the area around here. If we switch that off and on, you'll see how it's lightened up some parts of the image. Now, I quite like that. That was sort of getting me to where I wanted to be. So let's just delete that layer. So that's where we ended up on this. Now at this stage, I'm not really liking the boldness of the colour. So what I did was applied a colour lookup table. And if we go to, that's the symbol here, the colour lookup. And if we have a look in there, we'll see I used the drop blues lookup table. If we come through that, you'll see the effect a lookup table has on that. We'll scroll down, and again this is one where you go through and have a look and see what you get. Now because I liked that drop blues, I quite like that one, we're stuck with that one. Now what I would do then is I would create another layer, so we'd merge the rest of that layer up into the next layer, which is this one here. That's another layer copy. Now at this point I want to add some light, and in order to add the light, we're going to use the render lighting options in the filter menu. And let's have a look at what we got by using the spotlighting. There we go. And now you see that starting to look like the image you'd seen. So let's have a look at doing a spotlight on that. So we go to Filter, Render and Lighting Effects. And now because I have the spotlight already chosen, it's going to come to the spotlight. So here we have the spotlight, and you'll see here I've coloured it orange. I've placed it over the back of the tree here because I want the light to come from the back of the tree, almost like the light start trying to break through the from the clouds at the back. And you'll see what the effect of this has is it throws everything into a little bit of a vignette, and you get the lighting effect. Now you can adjust these lighting effects and you can play about with them, and that's what I suggest you do. Just play about with the different lighting effects and see what you get. So we'll cancel that, and we'll switch that off and switch the layer on that we've got. Now the only thing left to do now is apply some foliage into the foreground, and I've got a brush called what I call Sticks, and if we go and pick that up, you'll see it's called Sticks. And if we pick a white brush, and I'll just pop a thing there, you'll see that the sticks have been applied, and I'll increase the size and things like that and apply them like that. So let's just delete that layer, and the last layer is the crows and the foliage in the front. But now by mistake I didn't create an additional layer for the foliage, so the crows and the foliage are both on the same layer. And remember, I've said in some of the other videos, try and create all your embellishments, if you like, on different layers, so that if you get it wrong you don't have to do the whole lot again. But I made a mistake in this one, but not to worry. But I've got the crows on there, and in order to get these let's just go to my art brushes. In order to get this these almost like flowery type effects in the foreground, I've used what's called a snow brush in the Kyle concept brushes. And what I do is I sometimes pop some of these art brushes into my little art brushes picks, because it's useful to have them rather than going hunting them down. It's easier to have them in a little folder all together. And all I've done is I've picked an orange. Let's pick some of the orange there and see. You can get some of the, let's get some of the orange, pick an orange. And all I've done here is I've applied some orange snow effects, and it looks a little bit like flowers in the foreground. So that's just using that brush. But again, you've got to find your own brushes, or you can create your own brushes, it's up to you. Now the final part of this was bringing it into Lightroom. So if we pop into Lightroom now, you'll see the image here. And what I've done with this, I'll show you the before and after. There's the original image brought in from into Lightroom, and this is the final image when I've just done some adjustments in Lightroom. So let me show you what I've done here. I've added a radial filter here, and that's gone there in the middle. And I've inverted that so that it just applies to this area here. And what I've done is I've lightened up the centre part, because I wanted to bring some lightness to this. Let me get that back to where it was, 70, wasn't it? And that was at 70, I think. I've added some highlights. I brought the highlights up in the tree. I've reduced the blacks, and I've also added a graduated filter in this area, so I've lightened up the whites here, bring some of that snow into the foreground, darkened the blacks a little bit, taken the blacks down, and brought the exposure up a little, so it gives a little bit more depth to it, and some lightness to this front part. And if we go back to compare again, you'll see there's the two there. And if I look at it full screen in black, you'll see there's the final image. And I decided to call this the IceTree. So I hope you enjoyed that, and you got something out of it, and hope to see you again soon. Okay, bye bye.